to do, by the way.
You know what I'm
But
listening
there's a
to
lot of
right
things-
now? I'm listening to Jordan Belford's The Wolf of
No
Wall
way.
Street. I'm listening to it.
I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Bryn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for helping people with their money and all things business. Bryn is my co-host.
And I'm a marketing girl. I am literally obsessed with it. Oh, and Josh has showed me how to save money. Quite a bit, actually.
Because of her obsession, I hired her to do my marketing.
And we've worked together for 10 years.
We launched Sigman Sense in 2020, a podcast about money. It's a podcast that teaches people how to save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early.
And we recorded and published 34 episodes. People liked it, and it was so fun.
But most importantly, we helped people. So we're excited to announce we're doing a second season. And we're mixing things up. We're moving away from money talks to focus on all things business. Leadership, management, team building, book reviews, hiring, firing, operations.
Motivating teams, lead generation, time management, personality profiling, closing skills.
And of course, money.
And marketing.
We are inviting you to continue this journey with us, and we want your input. What topics would you like to see covered? Email all of your ideas to our podcast email address, sigmansense@gmail.com.
And be sure to click that subscribe button when you visit our channels. You'll get notified when we drop new episodes.
Are you ready? Season 2, Getting Down to Business. Welcome to Sigman Sense. Well, we're going to carry on this conversation because we last episode we were talking about monster prospecting, and there's this very interesting conversation about when should you start calling people and like how much research should you do and like should you just get after it or should you plan? And I think that you and I fall on different sides of this in some ways.
In some ways.
And then there's some things we agree on.
I mean, there's the right way and then there's your way. But whatever.
I should effectively welcome you first back to Sigman Sense. And so what we're going to talk about today is what most salespeople would argue is an important step, which is preparation prior to first contact. Let's just say it that way.
Okay.
Preparation prior to first contact.
So are you saying first contact is when you call them on the phone?
Yeah.
Or is
like
it when you meet them?
Yes and yes. So this is where there's going to be, in my opinion, something that a single book and a single author or a single podcast is not going to be correct for every industry, right?
Totally.
I think this is industry specific, right? When you're talking about a $100,000 medical sale, please be prepared, right? When you're talking about trying to get to know somebody in a relationship sale, insurance, financial planning, I don't think you need a ton of upfront work done,
right?
Or potential referring partners, right?
You know,
I think it's birds of a feather fly together, and you want to have as many contacts as possible. Without thinking about it, just find out people that you like, that there might be an opportunity to grow and make money together, right? So I really want to unravel this a little bit because I coach people in my industry, right? Realtors and lenders, and one thing that I see is so many realtors and lenders. They just joined the industry, right? And they spend the first 6 months thinking about what they're going to think about, training on what they think they're going to think about saying, start creating their listing packages and their buyers packages, try to figure out like what they're going to possibly say to a divorce attorney or a realtor to get them to send them business. And they literally leave the business because guess what? 6 months of no paycheck and a commission job just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
you're getting ready to
for
get ready.
those people, like I literally think, yes, you need to understand what it is you're selling. So there's got to be some preparation about what are the value propositions? What is it that you offer? What's good scripting to that you can, which we'll talk in a different episode about modeling masters. Like there's certainly some preparation that side. Like no one wants to waste their time talking to somebody that doesn't know what they are doing
or doesn't seem prepared. I mean, that's
right. Absolutely.
Seeming unprepared is also unprofessional.
Oh, I love that. Yep.
So I think there's different degrees of preparation too. Is know if it's in a prospecting sense, like there are things about the business you need to be prepared for.
Yep.
Like what do you know the product? Do you know if you're going to go on a listing
product,
presentation?
service?
Are you confident
the needs
with
of the client? Yep.
Right. Those things are prepared.
Competition is one too.
Yes. And then there's also the other side, which is preparation for the actual prospect. Right. And so that's where I think, just defining the two, because I think they are different and sometimes they get lumped together. And I think the preparation looks different in both areas.
Yeah. So let's first talk about for a service or relationship-based sale, right? Like a one-on-one, like I said, for real estate, for lending, for financial planning, things like that. or just trying to meet a referring partner. To me, I think that all you have to have in preparation is competency in what you do or what it is that you like. You need to train long enough with somebody that knows or have the support system behind you of somebody that you can get the answer from quickly.
Yes.
So you don't have to know everything about the product. You don't have to know every in and out of the service. You're a perfect example.
I'm a perfect
You're
example
not a loan officer, but you
right.
sell on sending leads to the team.
Right.
So in that area, it's understanding, well, what exactly is it that we do? What is it exactly that we don't do? Understanding that piece too. Like we do residential real estate loans. We don't do commercial real estate loans. We don't do construction real estate loans. But what we do really well is 1 to 4 family residential loans in the state of Texas.
Right.
Like we do them in all of Texas, not just.
And refinances.
Yeah, and refinances. So the fact that you are able to articulate that quickly and accurately and know what we do and what we do well is important, because when somebody says, well, can you do this? And you don't know, well, there's the loss of trust very early in the game, right? So that preparation is super important. Understanding the process.
The process is
preparation
huge.
About understanding like what step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to the sale is, right? What's a good starting step for a relationship? What's a great starting step to a referral? What would it look like to a referral if it came to our team, walking them through step 1, 2,
and
I
3. Think that's really powerful. And I think it can be, my feeling is that it's probably missed often when in all types of sales, is explaining and selling the process, because getting a new client, landing the sale, so much of that boils down to trust. And when you can tell people what to expect, that trust starts to form, and they also feel more comfortable either if they're making a change in our world, like if they have a lender that they work with and have worked with, it is uncomfortable to make that change. And whether they're still in good standing with the lender or they've messed up and things are going bad and they need to move, it's always uncomfortable. So explaining the process is huge, and that is a selling point. And a lot of people miss that. Like, just talk through what happens first.
Absolutely.
What happens first? What happens second?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of start this episode, because how long does that take? It's going to be different for every industry. I literally think that in our industry, in a matter of 3 months, you can get a good feeling in real estate or lending by going to, if you're in real estate, there's lots of classes that you can go to, and same thing in lending or working within a good team to at least learn the language. Like, I think that's a great way to say it, is learning the language
that is a good way
of what
to say
you're
it.
doing. Like, please tell me you can spell mortgage when you're selling mortgages, right?
Right.
And please tell me that you understand the basics of the real estate contract.
I was going to say contract, buyer, buyer's agent, seller, seller's agent.
Right.
And I say it that way because I've had
escrow
reps,
company, like basic stuff.
Because we've hired reps that have not purchased
a home
in
before.
The past. It's like they haven't purchased a home.
Yep.
You haven't purchased a home. Why would you
Why would we expect you to know the ins and outs?
Right. And there's a lot of moving pieces in real estate. And so
it's really interesting. And I would also argue that the longer the training process, if it can be supported by with salaries, right, the better the salesperson is eventually, right? So I work for a company called The Core as well. It's Core Training. They've got these client concierge, and their job is literally just to be able to get any resource for the people that they're in the coaching program at the drop of the hat. I've never seen anything like it. It's
fabulous.
It's unbelievable what
really
they
is.
do, right? One thing I found out about them is that what they train, when they hire somebody, that person is not allowed to talk to a client for 6 months.
Wow.
Whereas most training in sales is, here's your desk, here's your phone, good luck, right?
That's what mine looked like.
Right.
Actually, I didn't even know what I was supposed to do. Not with you.
Yep.
This is with my first sales job. I literally sat down on my first day and I'm like, I have no idea what my job is.
Isn't that
no clue.
Wonderful?
Literally no clue.
Yeah,
like,
so if you own a company, if you lead a sales team, like, please understand that the quality of your salespeople starts with your training. It's your fault if they are shitty salespeople in a year. If they were brand new to the industry, it's your fault.
It's your fault.
So work on training. But excuse me. So from a preparation perspective, that's where I would start is, do you have adequate training to be competent at your job? You don't have to be exceptional,
right?
Competent. Because there's nothing in sales that trains you faster than stepping on a landmine.
That is the truth.
Like, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
As if you're an owner, like, let your children make mistakes. Let your child touch the hot wire if they're on a farm. They won't touch the hot wire again. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
So if you don't let people make the mistakes, like I recognize that one of the reasons why I'm pretty good at what I do is that I've just in 19 years have just made a lot of mistakes. And fewer. And I remember what I did, so I don't make the same mistake again.
That's a huge point. Don't continue making the same mistakes, because that's just annoying.
Yep. You learn from it. But so that's a big piece of it. Now, on the flip side, if you're a seasoned salesperson, you have to look at who you're pitching, because you might only get one opportunity, one pitch. It might take, like when you're I'll just use our industry because it's relevant right now. If I want to work with a builder, and that builder kicks off 100 houses a month, and that builder's clearly got a great lender relationship, or they wouldn't be doing 100 units a month. They will tell me no for a meeting for 6 months, 7 months, 13 months, 3 years. It's just the truth. So when you finally get the shot at the title, I would spend a lot of extra time in preparation. So what does that look like for that level of a meeting down the road, right?
I'd say the first thing is make sure that all parties are there. Like,
that are decision
you
makers.
if you have one chance, this is not the time to like have staff, like, and you go by yourself. You bring the boss. I would bring, if it was me and I set it up, I would bring you.
Yep.
I would bring Justine. I would bring Chris, whoever we needed to bring to answer everything that's on the table. And I would encourage them to do the same thing. Who's going to be at this appointment? I don't want to waste anybody's time. You know, that's a big fear that prospects have is,
I don't have the time for this.
I don't have
I'm not even sure I need your service.
Right.
So why would I waste a lot of time?
And if we assume that, you know, not every salesperson is great, then they have been led to believe that is going to be a waste of time because of past experiences. People not getting to the point, not saying what they mean, not asking for the business, like not addressing the real issue. Why are we doing this? Nobody has time for that. So, you know, making sure that you tee it up, get everybody there. So that way, one, it will expedite the process, but two, we're not wasting any time.
So here's where I think that preparation, you can kind of give yourself some bullet points, and some do it better than others. And this is also another area that I know you and I have varied on. Like, I know, for example, some people tell you need to Facebook stalk somebody and find out things you have in common. And you told me once that you're like, I don't actually like that because I don't want to come in with a preconceived notion. Right. So for example, if I'm a card carrying Republican that has a ranch, which I do, and I love hunting with my children, and you hate guns and hate hunting, you don't want to come into that meeting, or maybe not set the meeting because I hate that guy.
That's the thing, not pick up the phone at all.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's a lot that can stand in the way of some really great business.
And on the flip side, I don't know if I totally, like, I like it. I like two things going into a meeting. I go into meetings pretty blind a lot, and I'm okay with it because of being in the business so long.
Right.
But the two things I do want to know, give me a triangle for trust. Like, who do you know that I know? Right. So LinkedIn is an example that you can use to figure out who they're friends with, that I might be friends with, that I can get an extra connection. Past client experiences. If somebody that has happened to use us both, that we were on the other side of a deal from one another. Yeah. Like, that's a triangle for, so let me explain triangle for trust. Triangle for trust is if Bryn, you know Justine, and I know Justine, and we like Justine, and I find out that you and I both know the same person, and we come in here and establish that, then you and I must trust each other, like each other, and be cool too, because we are like the same people, right? And most of the time that is so very true. There's only very few times that I've walked out going, why are they friends with her? Right. You know? Well, what's really interesting is, like, where do your best friends come from? Right. I mean, your best friends come, and where do your best employees come from? Your current best employees who refer other people that are their friends and their sisters. And tying back to, you know, last episode about monster prospecting, you know, using your current existing clients to get more business, in them telling you who to call. That becomes that is probably my favorite way of prospecting, honestly, because
it's just warmer and you're starting from a better location and it's more efficient because you're not going to have to call them 35 times, leave messages, stalk them, hunt them down for a meeting. And then they reschedule 4 times. And then all the things that salespeople go through. When you have a warm referral, they're probably going to call you back if you have to leave a message, and they're going to set the appointment, and they more than likely won't reschedule more than once, if at all. You know, it's just but to do that, you have to be asking a lot. You know, they have to be sending you several people.
Well, and then you could take it a step further because 1 and 2 tie together, the monster prospecting and the prior preparation. So I love movies. You know, one of my favorite movies of all time is a movie from the 80s called Wall Street. And Wall Street had Michael Douglas in it, and he was this big, crazy, rich investor. And you've got this new snide-nosed brat that's going to be a stockbroker. His name is Charlie Sheen.
I haven't seen this. I need to watch it.
You haven't seen this movie? Oh, dude, it's a good example of what not to do, by the way.
You know what I'm listening to right now? I'm listening to Jordan Belfort's The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm listening to it.
Yeah, so he's a crook, but he's got a lot of sales skills. So
right. It's his. I'm excited to hear his version of. So anyways.
Well, by the way, that's a good aside, by the way. So you can learn a lot about what to do from greats and also what not to do. And Wolf of Wall Street has both, right? Like ultimately, skip the end, the dude goes to prison, right?
Yeah,
he's a crook. But Charlie Sheen doesn't know this at the time, and he's fresh out of school, and he's a budding financial planner. And you know, when you start off at some of these firms, they give you a list, and you start at the bottom, the smallest people to call. Yeah. And I love that he just had the cojones to try to call the biggest guy out there who had the most money to be an investor. And the guy doesn't return his call. So what Charlie Sheen starts doing is he starts dropping by the office and getting to know the secretary and calling on the secretary, bring flowers secretary, bring chocolate secretary. And over a period of time, he ends up finding out when Michael Douglas's birthday is and what his favorite, I believe it's cigars, what his favorite cigars are.
Mr.
So what he does is after a period of 50 days or something like that, 100 days, he shows up on his birthday with his favorite cigars, proper preparation. And finally, Michael Douglas says, dude, if you're this persistent, I'll give you one shot. Sit down, right?
Yes.
So, you know, when you think about it, I had a realtor friend of mine that literally is trying to transition the commercial zone. And, you know, sometimes bigger producers in the area look down their nose at the brand new kid on the block, right? And he admittedly is a rookie to commercial. He's an expert at residential. He's getting better at commercial. And he wants to meet these 2 people because he's got a big buyer with big pockets, $100 million that they want to invest in San Antonio. Obviously, he wants to connect with these 2 big guys who are going to have listings that are going to be off market ahead of time, things like that, to best serve his client. And he literally asked me a question, said, Josh, what's the best way to get in front of him? And I talked about Wall Street. And I said, just keep calling every single day. Right now, yes, you can keep triangle for trusting. Yes, go ahead and do some snooping around. Yes, send him gifts. There's other things. But the preparation piece there is he knew who his biggest competitors were. Yeah. He knew where to go because he's got this $100 million buyer that he can connect with. So he did some research there. Yeah. He also knows one of his good friends is the niece of one of them that's been trying to connect him.
So he's been trying for trust.
So he's doing all this preparation, but he's very clear about what the target is. Yeah. Now, when he gets that meeting, steps 3 through 10, right? Yeah. Yeah. But I just told him show up every single day. Get a clean yes or clean no. But I'll tell you that where a lot of people get stuck in sales is not making the big call because they don't feel adequate.
Totally.
And they'll stop there. It's an emotional issue. But
the other thing too is we tell ourselves that it's
what would they possibly want with me?
What would they want with me, and why? If they're doing that well, surely they have all their vendors that they need.
Of course.
And they're all in great relationships, and I will never be able to break through that.
Well, what I love about you saying that, and I want everyone to hear this loud and clear that's in sales, is if somebody's got a 10-year relationship with a whoever vendor that you are and you want to be, and that means they've been saying no to everyone for 10 years, then if you can get that person, they're going to be loyal to you for a long time.
Right.
What I don't like is meeting with somebody that has 3 of the same person and they flip all the time because you are just a commodity,
right?
And you're not a partner,
right?
At that
for
point.
Sure. And I think prospectors stay away from the big fish because they do assume that they're in a great relationship and that they get called on all the time. And a lot of times that is simply not the case because everybody else has that mentality. So nobody's calling them, right?
Yep, that's right.
And so they've been, sitting with the same vendors or using the same products forever. There's a lot of salespeople that, they start to pay less attention to the people that are, true and blue and customers forever. They're low maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a prime opportunity is the point, right? Their current vendors may not be servicing them at all.
Right.
There's on a maintenance plan. So you can go in and show them what they've been missing.
Right.
So there's a lot of, a lot of different ways to spin it, but there's a lot of self-talk.
Oh, for sure.
So much self-talk.
And confidence demonstrates competence too.
Yeah.
So if you go in with a negative connotation or you don't feel like you're worthy, then you're not going to get the business, right? So
what would you say to someone that, I don't, so you're a salesperson, you're going to call on the biggest fish in town in your industry,
right?
And you have all these assumptions that, they have a great vendor, they know that they're happy, that that they're not looking to make a change.
Right.
So how do you handle that?
The number one way to overcome an objection is to say it first. Get that one right.
Wait, what? What? I don't know.
Let me say that again. The number one way to overcome an objection is to say it first.
Say it first.
So if I know that you are happy, I know that you have a great relationship with your boss, I know that you're well compensated, I know that that you're too busy, then I would literally say that in the first conversation. I'd say, hey, Bryn, listen, I know that you're not looking for a job. I know that you have a great relationship with your boss. I know that that you're well compensated and you really don't have any time to meet with me. But at some point, one day, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, I'm sure that that your boss will die or retire. And when that happens, I want you to call me first. You're not going to call me first if you don't know me. All I want to do is buy you coffee. The reason I want to buy you coffee is because I just want to get to know you, just so that one day, someday that I'm the first call. Is that okay if I buy you a cup of coffee?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I hate my boss and I'm looking to move. Aren't you glad you called? Just kidding. You never know what they're going to say, but yeah, exactly. Say it first.
And that's an objection thing we'll talk about later in sales skills, right? But it really just goes back to with this prospect. So by the way, did that rattle off my tongue a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I might have said it 1,000 times over my career. And the reason why I say that as a preparation point is I was taught years ago that script. I was taught years ago that assumption is something that you can beat by saying it first. And I teach my people to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's a part of preparation. So if I were to give you a top 5 of preparation when it comes to just getting prepared to make a call, and this is going to be for the not selling $1 million deal, right? Not meaning $1 million product, right? This is a relationship sale.
Yep. Okay.
I would say number 1, know what your top 4 objections are to why they're not going to meet for the first meeting.
Because they will say no. Remember from last episode.
They're going to say no.
Right,
and when they say no, it's okay. You just overcome the objection and close again, right? So understanding and learning and being taught what script-wise, what to say when they say no, because they're going to say no, would be rule number 1 for preparation. Number 2 is be really clear about what you can, from a service perspective, what you can do and what you can't do, where you do fill in the box and where you don't. Equally very important. Number 3, understand your value proposition. This is something that is worked on for years, but it can be taught by whoever's the number 1 person in your office or in the industry, just by asking, like, hey, out of curiosity, what's the value proposition?
Which is essentially why you.
Yeah, why you. Like
why
every
you?
Client's asking why you, whether they ask directly why you or not. But remember I said in the last episode, well, you've got to figure out the 3 things that you've got to convince a client before they'll close with you is number 1, that there is a problem.
Yeah.
Number 2, that you are best suited to solve the problem. And number 3 is that they like you.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes that means pointing out a problem that they didn't even know they had.
Right. Absolutely.
Like you have to find it. You have to tell them.
Right. Yes. And that's going to be through active listening, which we'll get to for sure. But if you don't have a value proposition, if you can't clearly articulate why you and what it's going to do for them, then it's going to be a problem. Yeah. Right. So preparation there is another one. 4th part of preparation is creating lists. Right? Like having one part of why people don't prospect or don't do well in sales is when they finally sit down because they have nothing to do and they're like, shit, I have nothing in the books. I need to prospect.
Right.
They literally don't know who to call. And so creating those lists is a great point of preparation. Mm-hmm. So let me give you an example. The people, ideally, as you have a mature business, you're going to call your existing clientele, your past clientele, your existing referring partners. Those are great lists to prospect for new leads, right? But the other people are, who do I want to develop? So an example is what we call a whale list, right? Mm-hmm. So our business and most businesses are made up of 10 people give you 90, or 10% gives you 90% of your business, but 90% gives you 10% of your business. So the onesie twosies do add up. And so you don't, you certainly love them, appreciate them, respect them for sure, right? But we have the top 10. And if we don't, we need to pursue some top 10. So that whale list are people that are needle movers, right? So if I could actually land this builder, if I could actually land this number one real estate team in San Antonio, if I could actually blank, then it would be a huge deal for my business, right? If you don't constantly, because remember, those are usually the longest to develop into a relationship because they typically have a relationship already. So having that list of 5 to 40 that you're going to constantly drip on over time is super, super important. So that's a prospecting, or that's another list. And I'll take it one step further, making that list readily available.
That was what I was going to say if you didn't. You know, the idea is that these are at the ready all the time.
So whenever you have a minute, like somebody's late to an appointment or you're driving down the road, like you have the opportunity to call these, you don't have to think.
Right. So, you know, having Google Docs on your phone, like, and being able to pull those out readily, that's great. Or printing them. I mean, print them and keep them in your freaking car. Like, they need to be with you. You're a salesperson. You need your prospecting lists.
And so I think that's the fourth one. And the fifth one for me is, and it's not like, my personality doesn't have room for this, but I understand the importance of it for most personalities, is some sort of collateral or follow-up plan, right?
Yeah.
Like if you like, what I mean by that is, remember, professionalism does come through. You know, people always say dress for the job you want, right? But when I think in terms of, okay, I get this guy on the phone that I didn't think was answer the phone, that I didn't think I belonged in the room for, and I actually set the appointment, what's next? Well, having that follow-up preparation already laid out, as far as the second I hang up, I'm going to send a confirmation email invite for my calendar, so it's on the phone. I'm going to send an email with my testimonials from other people that have used me. I'm going to go ahead and send you the next steps or the FAQs, right? The frequently asked questions. I'm going to, make sure that I have that on my calendar. I have adequate time to get there and get back to my next appointment. All those things, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even adding it into your database now, because they're moving from a prospect to a warm lead.
Absolutely.
Like, it should move lists. It's not just another person. Now it's, oh my God, they said yes. What's next?
Right.
Those things need to be thought out in advance to move the needle towards sales.
Yes. And I want to hone in on 2 things that you said that I want to make sure everybody hears loud and clear. At making a calendar appointment and inviting them to it is a huge win and missed all the time.
Oh, yeah. You said you're going to meet me at 5 o'clock at Starbucks next Thursday, right?
And you're assuming that they have the same calendaring mentality and thoughts as you do. Well, that is not the case, my friends. And you are not a priority in their world yet, right? The idea is that you become one, but you're not there yet. And they will forget about you, and they will stand you up, and you will feel like shit, and you will think you suck, and it's not your fault.
That's right.
So make a calendar and invite them to it. They have to accept it. Now it's at least on there. They've had to, actively do something to engage that appointment and confirm it. The next one that I want to talk about is the confirmation. So it's all about the wording. So many people say, "Hey, are you still good to meet tomorrow at 5?" It's, "I will see you tomorrow at 5." The end.
Assumption closed.
It leaves little room.
Don't. If you close the deal and then you ask the question later, you're giving them the opportunity to say no.
And they will, because it's taking time out of their busy calendar for someone that they don't even know yet. They don't know you. They don't know what to expect. That is so easy to blow off. Mm-hmm. So I will see you at 5:00 is assuming that they're going to honor their commitment.
Yep.
Right. And it's also reminding them if they didn't actually see the calendar invite or whatever. So those are two huge
And
things.
I'll take it one step further, just because this is a big thorn in my side. And I don't think people are bold enough to level up when they're stood up. Right. So if you actually set that appointment, if you actually have a follow-up email and they confirm the appointment, and then you show up and they're not there, I promise you that you need to level up immediately and put them in their place professionally, or you will always be walked down in that relationship and it'll never work. So if I show up at a set meeting and I'm there for past 10 or 15 minutes, I'm calling for sure. And what I start with, you've heard me do this before. I always start with first is, hey, I'm sitting here at Starbucks. I've got your coffee waiting for you. Just want to make sure
that's another great trick.
I want to make sure that you're close, right? And of course, it goes straight to voicemail because they're like, oh shit, I forgot. And then you call and by the way, while I'm sitting there, I'm not playing on my freaking phone. I'm calling my call list because I was prepared for these idiots that are going to not show up, right? So I've got literally hyperlinked numbers in my phone. Just keep on calling and keep on talking because I want to take advantage of the time that I've got.
Yeah.
And then when I'm about fed up, 30 minutes into an hour appointment, I'll call and say, I usually will say something like, I'm super worried about you. I just want to make sure that you're not in a hospital somewhere. Call me back. Otherwise I'll check in with your broker. Right. And if a broker is for real estate, obviously, and it's like you'll prompt a phone call.
Yeah.
And so when they do call back because they're mortified and or they don't want you to call their boss, then what I will typically finish up with is the next appointment for sure will be at my office.
Absolutely.
You're coming to me,
yeah.
right? And the reason is that I understand I have missed appointments, I have screwed up. I will absolutely give grace, but
You've never stood anybody up, have you?
I'm sure.
Unintentionally.
I assume I have at some point accidentally. I'm assume I screwed up on my calendar at some point. Yes, I would never say that I've never, and I've certainly been 10 minutes late. Certainly.
Right. This we know, Josh.
Right. So my point is like from a grace perspective, it's owed. I cannot judge.
Good point.
But I also think that it is okay to level up in that case and say, look, dude, the next appointment, you confirm it on the phone. Hey, do you have a smartphone? Yes. Is it in your hand? Perfect. Can you meet me tomorrow at my office at 10 o'clock? Like, here's the address. Here's the time. Do you want me to send you another confirmation email?
Yeah.
And you set the next appointment. But, being bold is super important in those situations.
It is.
Because otherwise you'll chase your tail and you'll find out over the fifth stand up that this is not somebody you want to work with. They have zero respect.
It's not, but also you have to know that you don't deserve that either, right? Yeah. And especially if you're
having value in yourself.
Yeah, and especially if you're doing these things and you're being responsible with setting stuff up and the follow-up system, and you don't deserve that.
Well, it's a lack of professionalism on their side.
It is.
So what kind of clientele or what's that going to be like to work with?
Exactly. A little tip too, if you're going to be meeting somebody for coffee. So when you're confirming, I'll see you at 3:00 with your cappuccino, or what would you like me to order? What do you want me to order you? Because now they're a real dick if they don't show up. Because you're sitting there with their coffee.
One of the best closes is an obligation close, right? Yes. Like, don't make me show up over there and buy you stuff and just not be there. Like, that's a jerk move,
right? And I got to be honest, if somebody did that to me, I wouldn't even call them. I'd be like, delete from my. Like, I'd be so pissed. I'd be so pissed.
Well, I hope this helps you on what it looks like to be prepared. All this is what we talked about, at least the 5 steps. You can for sure learn in 30 to 60 days, depending on the service or product industry you're in. Obviously not medical sales, medical device sales. The time frame and training might be longer, but you want to minimize that time and get out there and start firing bullets. Because
absolutely.
Remember, step one is more leads than you can handle, more calls than the next person. So don't over prepare, overthink, over structure, over create, and never get around to making the calls. Yeah. But yes, you need to have some level of professionalism and preparedness. And from here, we move on to something called modeling the masters, right? Like, from here, probably a portion of this, when you're preparing, what should be around that. But there's somebody for sure that is the best in your industry. Mm-hmm. And what I've learned about people that are the best in their industry, somebody helped them too. And so they're actually more willing to help you than you think. And we'll talk about that next time on Sigman Sense. So in the meantime,
yeah, in the meantime, if y'all, if you have questions, if you have comments, we love all of that. So you can send questions to sigmansense@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook.
And like and subscribe
iTunes,
and share.
All the things.
And make us trending. We want to start trending, right?
And we want to be able to say that it's not just busy trending. Like we actually want to trend, right?
Next time, guys. We'll talk to you later.